Hi everyone, it's Rafael from Living Energy Pilates and Rehabilitation here. Just coming back to you for our second video in the series on tennis elbow. So in the first part of this series, we talked about what tennis elbow is, how it starts, and how to recognize it, and also how to manage it in its acute phase. So when it first happens, what to do about it. Now, we've talked about that already, so now we're going to talk about the longer term solution, which is your exercise and what exercises to do and how many and so forth. Now, firstly, I think it's still pretty important to understand what's going on with the actual tendinopathy itself. So when you have a tendinopathy, it's basically a degeneration of the collagen protein in the tendon. So when you have healthy tendon, basically the collagen fibers are all nicely striated, they're aligned in the same direction so that the force travels through that tendon nicely and can be transferred to the muscle or to the bone. But what happens when you have some degeneration in the collagen and you have a tendinopathy is that you'll get cross-hatched sort of collagen fibers, so they're all sort of higgledy-piggledy, and as a result the force doesn't travel through the tendon as well, and it can cause this sort of inflammation or aggravation of the tendon and pain. So our long-term solution is really about using exercise to generate some healthy tendon around that degenerated section of tendon. So we actually physically make the tendon thicker, stronger, more elastic as a result of exercise, okay? Because we want to build that new collagen around the old collagen, okay? And it takes time, it doesn't happen overnight. Tendons build up over at least 3 to 6 months, okay? So you've just got to stick with it a bit. Now, there are 3 types of exercise that we want to use to help us. Now, firstly, isometric exercise, secondly, eccentric, and then thirdly, isotonic. Now, the isometric exercise can be helpful even in the acute stage because isometric exercise actually has an analgesic effect. So basically has a pain relieving effect on the area. Now, just what is isometric? Isometric is when you create some force through a muscle or tendon, but no actual movement in the joint. So in other words, our common extensor tendon and the muscles that join onto it create, which this is the bit that gets inflamed with your tennis elbow, they create this wrist extension. Okay, so that's a concentric contraction. When it's isometric, you're creating that contraction, but for whatever reason, it's not moving. So I'm applying a force with the other hand to stop the joint from moving, but I'm still working that tendon. So that's an isometric contraction. And we want to start with these isometric contractions because, as I said, has an analgesic effect, which can be really helpful. So basically, how many to do? We want to do 5 reps. Okay, 5 repetitions. Initially, especially if it's fairly acute, we want to start with a light contraction. So I kind of say, if we're talking 0 to 100% in terms of strength, we want to start with maybe 25% of our strength. So using your other hand, your good hand, to just lightly contract or moderately contract that tendon and muscle to create that movement, but resist with the other hand. So you do that for up to 45 seconds. So start off with a light contraction, as I said, maybe up to 25%, but 5 repetitions of that for up to 45 seconds. You might have to start with less time initially and just see how it goes. And that's what I usually tell people, just start with even 20, 30 seconds and see how you pull up after the 5 repetitions. If it feels okay, then build it up to that 45 seconds fairly quickly. And in addition to that, if that feels okay, you're doing your 5 repetitions at 45 seconds, you can build up the strength of the contraction as well. So up to around 90% of your strength you can apply in that contraction. Okay, and if that's all going well, all good, so it should be starting to strengthen up, the pain should be reducing. Then you want to progress on to your eccentric contractions. So eccentric, basically, when you do your wrist extension, that's concentric. When it's lengthening, when the muscle here is lengthening, that's eccentric. Okay, so to do that, we basically hold a weight. Okay, I use my non-affected hand to create the eccentric, create the movement, and then I use the muscle to just slowly bring it down. Okay, and you repeat that. So you're using your other hand and then slowly lengthening this muscle. Okay, back to its start position. And for these, when you're doing eccentric exercises, you would do 3 sets of 10. Now, I'm using a fairly lightweight, that's 1 kilo. You can, if you need to, you can start with less, so even half a kilo. Or if you're doing it with the 1 kilo, for example, and it's pulling up fine and it feels relatively easy, then go heavier. So go 2 kilos. So you always want to just adapt what you're doing based on how it feels afterwards. If it's not feeling overly sore afterwards, then by all means step it up a little. Now you can do the same sort of thing with a resistance band. For example, like this, I'm going to use my good hand to extend up, and then I'm going to slowly release down. So again, that's eccentric. Okay, release it down like that. So it's exactly the same, you're just using a different form of resistance. We use these as well. This is just basically a piece of rubber. It's called a tennis elbow twister. If you look on the internet, you'll find them. What you can do, so we use this as well, so just apply a different way of doing it. So again, you'd use your good hand to create the extension like that, and then you'd apply a force. So I'm twisting that way to apply a force, and I'm going to slowly release it down. Okay, so again, that is eccentric. I use the other hand to extend, and then applying a bit of force and slowly bring it down. Okay, obviously not everyone's going to have one of these. So you can use a towel at home as well. If you roll up a towel nice and thick, and again, use your other hand to extend it, and then apply a bit of force and slowly lengthen that muscle. So it's exactly the same. So yeah, a rolled up towel will work. Maybe not quite as well, but still work pretty well. It'll certainly achieve your results. Now, once you've been doing eccentric exercises for a little while, you can then progress on to the isotonic. So basically that means you're no longer having to use your other hand, you're just doing a standard sort of contract and then lengthen, contract and then lengthen. So you're doing the whole movement with the wrist and the forearm and that. And again, you can do the resistance band, you can use the TE twister or tennis elbow twister, and you can also use your towel. All right, so these exercises you ideally need to do every day, certainly until the pain goes away, and then I would keep doing them even after the pain went away. I would even do them maybe for a couple months, a couple times a week, maybe 3 times a week. And it's really something that you just want to keep happening in an ongoing form, because that tendinopathy, the degraded part of the tendon, doesn't really go away. So you've got to maintain the strength through the good part of the tendon. And I should say, you want to progress. You might start with your isometric exercise, but then you want to progress to your eccentric exercise, and then you want to progress to your isotonic exercises as you get better and better. So I hope this clarifies things for you. If you have any questions, by all means, send me an email. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like what we do. We'll be sending out more videos soon. Thank you.